Teeth. When you think of Resident Evil, what do you think of? Zombies, chainsaws, werewolves, or Lady Demetrius? Because look at them teeth. What if you don't love the woman on the worst day? You don't deserve them. None of this weirdly comes to mind for me. What comes to mind is the weird baby bees up your kazoo crazy ass story. From the simple experiment that went wrong and turned into a zombie outbreak, didn't that happen here in this universe? To the crazy reveal that some crazy ass village full of myths and legends was the origin of Umbrella. Then on top of that we have a mold man, a blue logo that tries to fix the problems of old, and also the TV, BA, even C viruses. A, B, C, D. Alongside some weird powers what Rose has. All this is the Resident Evil universe. And the next game is coming out pretty soon, making it time to ask the question, what is the story of Resident Evil 9 Requiem? So let's mumble about it. I've always had a weird relationship with Resident Evil. To me, it's like the bulldog of video games. You know, the ramen? Every 2 to 4 years, I fancy playing one, but when I actually play them, the same thing happens. No. Holy. The biggest difference being, I bought 5 packs of Bulldog. That's gonna last me a long time, but I'm always gonna forget every couple of weeks and go back to it. But with Resident Evil, I can only play in the daylight. So, swings and roundabouts. Remember when zombies, zombie dogs, and big spiders were cool? That was a long time ago, but in Resident Evil Requiem, it could become cool again.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
In true Resident Evil fashion, we know a lot, but also know nothing at the same time.
It's all gonna be okay, Mindy.
Gee, I doubt it.
We know the setting revolves heavily around the events of Resident Evil 2 and kind of 3, as they're kind of set in the same city, aren't they? Different things happen at the same time, if I remember correctly. With a new character called Grace Ashcroft, as she is the daughter of Alicia Ashcroft from the game, but is murdered 30 years after Raccoon City's incident. For the more common tongue, the OG zombie outbreak in Raccoon City acted as the butterfly effect for the whole Resident Evil universe. This is kind of the whole setup of the game. You have to go back to the place of your mother's murder because the FBI boss thinks you should after 8 years and you should just deal with your problems. I think that might be a HR problem. This is due to a new murder having transpired in your investigation, as you're the one investigating the string of murders, these suspicious murders, so to say. Not just normal murders, they look suspicious. There's some images. Then it looks like you're abducted by this guy who is seemingly the main protagonist. He's no tall, dark and handsome, but look at them eyes. I wouldn't kick him out of the ramen bar if you know what I mean. So that's the story so far. But the only thing we kind of know about Leon is that he's kind of on the trail of these murders as well, and he's returning to Raccoon City after 38 years-ish. Damn, that makes Leon nearly 60. Or we're going full like old man Leon in this game. And you know when you hit that 55 mark, you upgrade your knife to an axe. So it's shrouded in mystery. I'm not going to go into the theory of Leon dying and how he could be affected still from Resident Evil 4, but I think that doesn't make sense because of 4 and 5, no, because of 5 and 6. Anyway, I want to talk more about this guy. While looking into what people are saying about this, there is currently a couple of theories, a lot going around Greek mythology. One of these channels being the Cypher Hunter, the one I kind of invest a lot of time into. An amazing video that will be linked below. However, I'm going in a different route, as weirdly I don't get Greek mythology vibes from this guy. Yes, it will obviously have Greek mythology, every single game kind of has it, and there's literally a Pandora box. However, when I look into these kind of trailers and the gameplay and the whatever's, all the different information, it doesn't feel Greek mythology. It's going to have Greek mythology in it. It feels more Frankenstein. Basically, it's given a more Frankenstein vibe. With Victor Gideon, I think I said that name right, being a combination of both the creator and the monster, both the virus and the cure, with him creating creatures within the hospital, what will be found by Leon, who is kind of behind Grace in this search. On the other hand, we have this apartment building area will act as kind of the starting point of the game, where Grace and Victor von Stein meet for the first time, as she is going back to the place where her mother died, what seemingly might be him, but I have a theory that it probably won't be him, but she is kind of forced by her job to go back here because of terrible management. If they don't reveal that this was part of the plan of getting Grace to this hotel, or I think it's hotel, whatever they were at, to look at this murder, I cannot not stop thinking about how bad the management of it would be if they never reveal anything about the character. I know I'm focusing way too much on management, the FBI, but it feels too big to not just some kind of blackmail on him. Like, you've got to kill, like, Victor's gonna kill one of his member family. Just one line, I need one line, and I won't think about it for the rest of the game. That's all I need. Leon could be dying. Leon could be dying at the end of this game, and I'll be thinking, it's all that manager's fault. With the fact, I think this little beastie, what has been a part of this trailer, like a massive part of this trailer, with it obviously being a creation of Victor, and I think it could be Grace's mother, as Victor has been experimenting with all these bodies, trying to evolve the virus into something perfect. Also known by me, the theory being that this kind of creature is the perfect T-virus, meaning that this is technically the perfect liquor, and to me it's the resurrected version of Grace's mother. Grace's mother is a legacy character, and we could see these perfect viruses be the return of a lot of other legacy characters, kind of leading to these weird, sad, horrific kind of Easter eggs. One of them being Jake Miller, even though the main theory is this guy is kind of just a young Victor doing his kind of young work and being a bit more agile, but it just feels different. It feels like a different character, and it would be a good idea to kind of bring back one of the best character's sons into this game, right? With him being really the only survivor of the C virus, not in like Alice Ashcroft being one of the survivors of the T virus, with Jake Miller being a perfect C virus and kind of a mercenary for Victor in this game. So okay, we have these two main variants of the virus now in Resident Evil, returned and perfected, kind of. And then we kind of go through it, we see other, maybe less important survivors of different viruses as it goes through the ABC, as the title says, of the virus. That means we could possibly get the survivor of the T-Abyss virus, possibly bringing back Jill Valentine. Maybe she isn't fully evolved into this beast. Maybe she's still fighting the virus, as I think she was fighting the virus in Resident Evil 3. It's Resident Evil 3, I think. Did I play the remake of that? Did I? Or did I just watch it? Also, this could be used as a big plot point going forward, but I don't want to kill all the legacy characters though. I don't want to just kill them straight off. A lot of them have survived viruses, and they could, again, as I don't really want the conversation of the returning Jill Valentine to go like this. How's your day? I was just asking, God, you always do this. All this could lead to Rose's return as well. Rose Winters. The feeling was it was going to be her kind of story in this game, but it wasn't, as she's the only survivor of the mold stuff. I know we like restarting stuff, but it just a little bit weird that they did the DLC and then they went to this. And then lastly, and not maybe most importantly, we have Les Plagueis. This being the reason why Leon is in the trailer and involved in this game, with him turning out to be a perfect form of that virus. With all the viruses perfected, this Elpus, also mean hope in Latin, would be the pinnacle of his thing. He wouldn't want to just create a monster, the perfect technical bioweapon, but also the perfect being who could, this is destruction. He would want to create something better all the time. He's kind of the creator and the destroyer, the Victor von Frankenstein and the monster. Also, he is called Victor. That's probably where I got the vibe from. And this would act as their hope. This new pinnacle of what they're trying to create. Getting rid of the only weakness through hope. Through the chosen one. It's not Star like Star Wars. This makes one of the main goals of the game to cure some of these people before they are completely gone. However, for Victor, this isn't just another Zombo Bombo Wombo bioweapon. This isn't just I want to start a world over. This is hope. This was I want to bring back the head of the table, Oswald E. Spencer. This is a resurrection story. This is Frankenstein's story. Because he makes a monster. I know it's not a resurrection, but you know what I mean. Resurrection, a monster could be the same thing. Pandora's box would be the hope to bring back the monster. As I think the logo right here is a coffin. Also, if it's being honest here, I kind of think the Oswald Spencer kind of whole story arc is terrible. This guy's meant to be maybe the most evil in the whole Resident Evil universe. Then he's kind of a letdown as a kind of villain in the game. He has his influences everywhere, kind of, but mostly just every time his finger's in a pie, every time you kind of get to that pie, there's already sunglasses in there. I think at least a boss fight as Oswald as a kind of monstered out kind of thing would be good. Like the second coming of Oswald would also be good, and we could see it in Resident Evil 10. It would be kind of poetic, maybe, to bookend like the Spencer Mansion with the Spencer Return. Like a new era kind of deal of Umbrella as well would be evolved through this. Or we could just fight a monster version of him. I wouldn't mind that. We don't need a whole story around him. Just give me a monster fight. No matter what, I think these perfect variations of the virus would be the main plot point of this game. And I think the twist could either be the return of Oswald, what I hope would be the twist, but it could be loads of different things. As also it could be a completely different direction, something to do with the connection.
Who was it?
Dunno.
And then a story flying about is that Victor is actually, what's his name? Brandon Bailey, the secret fourth founder of Umbrella revealed in Resident Evil 8? I think it was 8? The village one. Whatever's village, it's in the village one. We haven't obviously got anything, and this is the next game after it, so it kind of makes sense this kind of continues that element of the story if we are not going back to the Winters arc of the game, because it feels like it's ended, right? But if you look into him and his kind of background, he's not a kind of wants to create the perfect being. He's more of a bioweapon type guy. I suppose it wouldn't make that much sense unless he's trying to make the perfect bioweapon, or after all these years he's kind of gone crazy. On the other side we have the connection, what was kind of a big reveal in the saga of Ethan Winters of Resident Evil kind of bit, as he kind of was the reason why it all happened, that we have kind of stumbled through and just glossed over. Victor could be maybe hiding through this alias to keep the connection secret, through going back to what he sees as failed viruses, going back and perfecting them, perfecting Umbrella's mistakes and kind of Oswald's, with the mold virus being this perfect virus and really only virus we know about the connection making. Alongside this, when you look at Victor and a lot of kind of the infected looking in these trailers, they are less red and bleeding, a lot more black and moldy, like the features we had in some moldy parts of the other games. Through this kind of reveal, we would blow the connection to the forefront of Resident Evil and put them as the main villain and kind of becoming the new Umbrella, even though it's a crappy name. If we look at Resident Evil and Umbrella, they are kind of two peas in the pod. They're so much connected in the universe of this game. You can't have the one without the other. Umbrella is a massive part of the universe, but it hasn't been at its peak since Resident Evil 3. Every game kind of feels like afterwards is kind of living off the notes and information given by Umbrella. It'd be cool to kind of see Umbrella, or at least a different kind of organization. The connection is a crappy name though. Taking the role of this and having this kind of global entity, what is creating these things again. This is at its peak of craziness. I think it'd be pretty cool. And bringing back Spencer for Resident Evil 10 would be that kind of nostalgia cherry on bookend of the kind of franchise of this era. And then we completely forget about Umbrella and we go a completely different direction. Obviously, the game franchise has gone in many different directions over the years, but story-wise, it's always been Umbrella and then a load of line and dots what go to what you're dealing with. Going back to Claire Ashford for a minute, kind of love that name, before we dive into how this story and gameplay will combine to make the game. If her mother is a perfect licker,
Title your sex tape.
Where does her daughter come into this as the chosen one? Victor is looking for something different. He creates these perfect viruses. He's achieved what Oswald did, but with one downfall: light. If you go back to the fact mold is the perfect virus, the original perfect virus, there's really one thing that harms it: light. And in the trailer we see the big monster damaged by light. We have seen Hope in the past. Possibly we have seen Elpus in the past, a daughter of an infected that is literally has light powers. It would make sense that Victor wants to make Grace into a new infected, or use her blood to adapt this virus to new means. Even though we have saw Rose use these powers and she would technically be the Hope, or a second generation infected technically. Maybe that's the whole goal. And after that, the virus can survive in the light. And I kind of think at the end of this, they succeed in a way. Okay, so we have these two story plot twists near the ending because the plot twist is always coming quite further down the road. Would you rather the returning Oswald or the secret fourth member revealing themselves? Comment below and say what you would want as a twist in this game. Through the return of them though, you also would get the connection maybe as the new kind of company. Well, it doesn't sound as good as Umbrella. You know, Umbrella is literally a shit name. The connection sounds worse, doesn't it? Sounds like a wrestling faction. A bad one, like the Vision.
Resident Evil.
In Act 1, we will play as both Grace and Leon. We'll go through with Grace going to the hotel and end up finding Victor and then going up against the monster, and that's how she ends up in the hospital. On the other hand, we flash back to Leon, kind of slowly making his way, following the tracks of Grace, who looks to be at the hospital, and as he fights through the hospital, he finds Grace running from Elpus, possibly leading to the setup of their kind of camp. You know, that area where they kind of set up camp for a slight bit, maybe at the hospital, maybe outside, maybe in a random store. This is kind of where we get the initial lore dump. We meet Leon, we kind of explore a lot, and then we somehow split up with Leon down the line, maybe due to his infection, or they go on different separate missions. I don't know, maybe.
Resident Evil.
In this bit, we search deeper into the lore of this world, of this new kind of era of Resident Evil in these new parts. We're going back and then we find these Easter eggs, we find a laboratory, do this classic start. Maybe we come across classic members of the Resident Evil gang, some monsters, some captured, with the aim of getting the cure for Leon, end up in the original Raccoon City, maybe underground, maybe that's where the lab is. I don't know how that would work, but you can't show me this and not expect me to think we're going to return in some way. Even though it's going to be the ruins, I think we also destroyed the laboratory where it was. It's going to be destroyed, but I need to go back to the ruins and see some shit. However, I do think Leon kind of needs to be there, so I think that Grace is kind of stuck there and Leon is helped by maybe a returning character. Give me an Ada Wong, maybe. A last Ada Wong help. Something along them lines, or Claire Redfield maybe helps him. Just, it mirrors the second game. He isn't cured, but he can go. And that's how we kind of get this scene of him fighting the zombies, trying to make his way to Grace, with the virus now spread through the bigger overall city.
Resident Evil.
In Act 3, we get this reunion of Leon and Grace, and then we go with the big reveal of what is happening in this game and who Victor is, or what is the bigger villain. I think in some way we lose at the end of this game as well. It leads to 10. I think this will be a more setup for the story of a bigger picture because they gotta have 10 in mind, right? Then we kind of have an underwhelming final boss like we always do. What I kind of think the last boss will be Albert Wesker's son. I don't know why. I have a feeling that this guy who's just kind of doing some weird Manhunter game type stuff is gonna be a bigger thing. It just feels like Victor is not the villain of this. To me, it just feels like there's something bigger here. We have Leon back and we have a lineage bloodline with Grace. It feels like this game is going to blow up a lot bigger than we saw the past two of just being in one location. It's not going to be in a village or a house. This is going to be something a lot more. And it's going to be more theory in this game. It feels like it's going to be more, what the hell is happening? And oh my god, this happened. But really, that is what I think the story of Resident Evil Requiem will be. But what do you think? Do you think this is the right route? Do you think if they don't do this, they should have done this? Comment below your thoughts. Like and subscribe for future mumbles, and remember to subscribe to join the Babbling Horde, and I will see you on the next mumble.